The air in the house was eerily still as Alicia inserted her key into the front door lock. She had returned home earlier than planned from her work trip, feeling uneasy after a sleepless night, filled with a nagging sense of dread. Her instincts rarely betrayed her, but she hoped this time they had. As she stepped inside, the familiar scent of her home greeted her. But something was off. A pair of red stilettos lay carelessly by the entrance, a pair she didn't own. Alicia's pulse quickened as she scanned the living room. A woman's handbag sat on the couch, an unwelcome confirmation that she wasn't alone in the house. Quietly, Alicia made her way to the bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and muffled laughter and voices seeped through the crack. Her stomach churned, but she maintained her composure, her military training kicking in. She moved swiftly to the safe in the hallway, inputting the code to retrieve her handgun. With the weapon in her grasp, Alicia approached the bedroom, her breath steady despite the storm brewing within her. She pushed the door open, revealing her husband, Ethan, tangled in bed with another woman. They froze at the sight of her, their faces turning pale as they registered the gun in her hand. "Really, Ethan?" Alicia's voice was calm, but her eyes burned with fury. "This is what you do when I'm away." Ethan scrambled to sit up, his words tumbling out in a panicked rush. "Alicia, it's not what it looks like." "Oh, spare me the lies," she snapped, raising the gun just enough to emphasize her authority. The woman beside him clutched the sheets, trembling and wide-eyed. "I trusted you," Alicia continued, her voice cracking despite her efforts to remain stoic. "I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me." Ethan stammered, trying to explain, but she cut him off with a sharp wave of the gun. "Don't bother. You've said enough." Alicia stepped back, lowering the weapon but keeping it firmly in her grasp. "You have 5 minutes to get her out of this house. After that, we're having a conversation about divorce." The woman hurriedly gathered her belongings, avoiding Alicia's piercing gaze. Ethan tried to protest, but Alicia's glare silenced him. As the mistress left the room, Alicia turned her back to Ethan, her heart breaking with every step she took. She placed the gun back in the safe and locked it before returning to the living room. Ethan followed, pleading for forgiveness, but Alicia was resolute. "Save it, Ethan," she said coldly. "You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. This marriage is over." Her voice carried the weight of finality, leaving Ethan speechless. Without another word, Alicia walked out of the house, her heart heavy but her resolve unshaken. She knew she deserved better, and for the first time in a long while, she was ready to reclaim her peace. As Alicia stepped outside, the crisp evening air stung her skin, but it was a welcome relief from the suffocating betrayal that lingered inside the house. She stood for a moment on the driveway, her mind racing. The life she had built with Ethan now felt like a lie, every memory tainted by his deceit. She didn't cry. Not yet. There would be time for tears later. But now she needed clarity. Pulling out her phone, she called her best friend, Kara. "Hey, Alicia. You're back early." Kara's cheerful tone was a stark contrast to Alicia's mood. "I need a place to stay tonight," Alicia said, her voice steady but clipped. Kara immediately picked up on the tension. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I'll explain when I get there," Alicia replied. "Just, can I crash at your place?" "Of course. Come over right now." Alicia ended the call and got into her car. As she drove to Kara's house, flashes of her marriage to Ethan filled her mind, his laughter, their late-night talks, the promises they had made. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. When she arrived at Kara's, the door was already open, and her friend stood waiting with a concerned expression. Alicia barely made it to the couch before the tears came, hot and unrelenting. Kara sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her. "Alicia, talk to me. What happened?" Between sobs, Alicia recounted everything. The stilettos, the voices, the betrayal. Kara listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to anger. "That bastard," Kara hissed. After everything you've done for him, he doesn't deserve you, Alicia. You know that, right? Alicia nodded weakly, wiping her tears. I know, but it still hurts. I gave him my trust, my loyalty. I thought we were building something real. You were, Kara said firmly. He's the one who destroyed it. This isn't on you. Alicia spent the night at Kara's, alternating between anger and heartbreak. By morning, she felt a little stronger, though the pain lingered. Over the next few days, Alicia began to take control of her life. She contacted a lawyer to start divorce proceedings and made arrangements to move out of the house. Ethan tried to reach out multiple times, calls, texts, even showing up at Kara's place, but she refused to see him. One evening, as Alicia packed up her belongings from the house, Ethan appeared in the doorway, his face etched with regret. Alicia, he began, I messed up. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I can't lose you. Please, let's talk. She didn't pause her packing, her movements deliberate and calm. There's nothing left to talk about, Ethan. You made your choice, and I'm making mine. I'll do anything to fix this, he pleaded. Alicia finally turned to face him, her eyes resolute. You can't fix what you broke, Ethan. Some things are unforgivable. I deserve better than this. With that, she picked up her bags and walked out of the house for the last time, her head held high. In the weeks that followed, Alicia focused on herself. She threw herself into her work, reconnected with old friends, and started therapy to process the betrayal. Slowly but surely, she began to rebuild her life. One evening, as she sat on her new apartment balcony, sipping a glass of wine, she realized something profound. She felt free. The weight of Ethan's betrayal no longer consumed her. Alicia knew she still had a journey ahead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. She had survived the storm, and now she was ready to embrace the calm. Months passed, and Alicia's life started to transform in ways she hadn't anticipated. The pain of betrayal dulled over time, replaced by a renewed sense of self-worth and independence. Her job, which she had always excelled at, became a source of pride and stability. She even took up kickboxing, channeling her lingering anger into powerful strikes that left her feeling strong and capable. Ethan continued to try and contact her, but she maintained strict boundaries. She ignored his messages and redirected his calls to her lawyer. Each time she resisted the urge to respond, she felt a surge of empowerment. She was no longer the woman who would accept being treated as an afterthought. One day, while grabbing a coffee at her favorite cafe, Alicia ran into an old acquaintance from her military days. David had been a fellow officer during her first deployment, and they had always shared an easy camaraderie. Alicia, he said, his voice tinged with surprise. She turned, her eyes lighting up as she recognized him. David. Wow. It's been ages. They spent the next hour catching up, reminiscing about old times, and sharing updates about their lives. David had recently retired from the military and started his own security consulting firm. He listened intently as Alicia spoke about her recent struggles, offering words of encouragement without judgment. You've been through hell, he said, his tone warm but firm. But it sounds like you're coming out stronger. Alicia smiled, appreciating his words. I'm trying. One day at a time. Their meeting turned into regular coffee dates, which gradually evolved into something more. David was patient, never pushing her but always there when she needed support. He respected her independence and admired her strength, qualities that Ethan had taken for granted. As their relationship deepened, Alicia found herself opening up in ways she hadn't before. With David, there were no pretenses, no secrets. He saw her scars, both literal and emotional, and accepted her entirely. One evening, as they sat together on her balcony, David turned to her, his expression serious. Alicia, I don't want to rush you into anything, but I need you to know something. You're one of the strongest, most incredible people I've ever met. And whatever you need, time, space, anything, I'm here for you. Tears welled in Alicia's eyes. not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of being truly seen and valued. "Thank you, David. That means more than I can say." The future felt uncertain, but for the first time, Alicia wasn't afraid of it. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and the daunting task of rebuilding her life, and she had emerged stronger. As she looked out over the city skyline, David's hand resting lightly on hers, Alicia felt a glimmer of hope. Life had thrown her into chaos, but she had found her way back to herself. And in doing so, she had discovered the strength to love and trust again. On her own terms, the months stretched into a year, and Alicia's life became a testament to resilience and renewal. She finalized her divorce with Ethan, the legal proceedings bringing closure to a painful chapter. Each signature she placed on the documents felt like a small victory, a declaration of her freedom. David remained a steady presence, but Alicia was deliberate about moving forward at her own pace. She wanted to be sure that her next steps were rooted in her own growth, not just a response to past pain. David understood, never pressuring her, always encouraging her to put herself first. Alicia began to explore passions she'd long set aside during her marriage. She started painting again, filling canvases with bold strokes and vibrant colors that mirrored her evolving emotions. She volunteered at a local veteran support group, finding purpose in helping others navigate their struggles. Her transformation didn't go unnoticed. Friends and colleagues often remarked on her newfound confidence, the way she carried herself with quiet determination. Alicia smiled at their comments, knowing that every step she had taken had been hard-earned. One day, while sorting through old belongings in preparation for a charity drive, she came across a box of mementos from her marriage. Among the items was a photo of her and Ethan on their wedding day. She stared at it for a long moment, memories swirling in her mind. But instead of sadness, she felt a sense of closure. That chapter of her life, though painful, had taught her valuable lessons about her worth, her strength, and her ability to endure. She placed the photo back in the box and sealed it shut. It was time to let go. Later that evening, she met David for dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant. Over wine and candlelight, they talked about their dreams and plans for the future. David mentioned expanding his business and hinted at wanting to travel, while Alicia spoke of the art exhibition she was working toward and her desire to see more of the world. As the night wore on, David reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Alicia," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I've watched you rebuild yourself piece by piece, and I've never been more in awe of someone. I'm not here to complete you. You've already done that yourself. But I'd love the chance to be part of your future, however you see it." Alicia's heart swelled at his words. She wasn't the same woman she had been a year ago, and she knew her journey wasn't over. But she also knew that she was ready to embrace love again, not out of need, but out of choice. "I'd like that, too," she replied softly, a smile spreading across her face. As they left the restaurant, walking hand in hand under the glow of city lights, Alicia felt an unfamiliar but welcome sense of peace. She had faced the worst and come out stronger, and now she was stepping into a future filled with promise. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and she was ready to live it fully, on her terms, with someone who truly valued her by her side.